Hellmarch, Volume 1, Mass Combat by Alchemic Raker. You can find him over on X. Whole lot of fun, jammed into a tiny little package. Relatable. Wargaming rules for use with Shadow Dark RPG. I don't know why he says that. As a wise man once said, I don't know why they call it Hamburger Helper. Does fine all by itself. If you get that reference, you and I are now best friends. I'm sorry, that's the way the rules work. If I reference a movie and you saw that movie, we're tight, baby. This is us, right? If I call you and I say, listen, I don't want no questions here. Just, I need you to drive over, pick up a shovel, some duct tape, and a whole lot of Visqueen. You just got to do it now because we both saw the movie. That's just how media works. Had a request down in the comments on a recent video. Hey, can you just show us how this game works? Like, stop trying to connect it to things. Just show me the game. In that same video, in the comments, Alchemic Raker stopped by and showed me a couple things that I had done wrong. So I want to take one more stab at Hellmarch, at least one more. Just play the game. And I'm not going to do the points. Points are dumb. We don't need to balance this out. I'm just going to grab a whole bunch of, well, you saw the thumbnail, right? So bunch of Skaven / Rattlings / whatever you want to call them, and Dark Elves, because I want to get some cavalry on the table, and we'll play a little battle. As you can see from the mat, I'm gonna cover that up. Little heavy on the spray paint there. We're going out to the desert for this one. I had forgotten exactly how many rat dudes I have. Most of the games that I play use really finicky troop types or formations. In case of one-page rules, they have to be divisible by 5, so you either have 5, 10, 15, or 20. In the case of Dragon Rampant, it's going to be by 6s and 12s. With these games, Old Lords of Wonder and Ruin, Hellmarch, just throw some stuff on the table. So that's what we did. And I'll show you how easy this is to characterize them. Light infantry. These are little were-rats. Most of these figures come from Splintered Light, by the way. I got a unit of 9, I got a unit of 12, and I have another unit of 12. These little rat swarms here are going to class as light infantry. The big bases count as 2. We may need to use some casualty markers. Not a big deal. They'll start in loose order, and they're not very strong, but they're quick. And because they're not a threat, they may be able to get into some flanking positions, which give them that all-important advantage. They fight as medium troops when they hit you in the flanks. Also, because they'll be moving in open order for the most part, they are less vulnerable to archer fire. We'll take a look at the elves in a little bit, see why that might be important. I have a rather large unit of medium foot, and medium foot, all 3 of these. The one advantage that the Rattlings have is in numbers. They also have leaders. Now, one of the things that I've done to remind myself, I've got a leader here in the front, and I may pull these guys out front. These are just fighter 2, if you will. So leader, and then leader. So all 3 of these units have leaders. They're going to be fighting at an advantage. They punch well above their weight. We have a cleric. We have a fighter 6 as their major leader. Now, it doesn't really matter except in terms of hit dice if they get into one-on-one combat. We're going to call this rat ogre, just an ogre, 4 hit dice. He's one of their heavy hitters as well. And the cleric only really has 2 spells. He can bless a unit, giving them a +1. He can curse an opposing unit, giving them a -1. Or in other words, advantage and disadvantage. So if we can get in a flank attack with a leader attached and the blessing of the rat god, that means you've got 3 total advantages. These light infantry not only can move through areas that no one else can, they're going to be punching well above their weight if you use them properly. Now, I do have a unit of spears, and then both of these units really kind of the same. They are simply medium foot with regular hand weapons. The unit in the foreground is 15. They have flails, 2-handed weapons. In some games that makes a difference. It's not really going to make a big difference here. The medium unit in the back, we're looking at, it looks like we got 20 guys. Again, they have just a random collection of hand weapons, but they will have advantage in melees because they've got their leader with them. The Dark Elves don't have nearly as many figures on the table, but they are going to be punching a lot harder. In addition to the medium cavalry, they've got this treant. We're going to call him an 8 hit die monster. So 4 for the rat ogre, 8 for this guy. He's going to be terrifying. This is why we may want to send our 6th level fighter, rat fighter, to take this guy on. He's going to be terrifying. We have 1 unit of shooters. These are light infantry armed with crossbows. We may have to spread them out a little bit. And these guys really were built more for Dragon Rampant. As you can see, 12, 12, 12, 12. I threw in some leaders to bump up some of these numbers to 15. We do have a unit of medium infantry with hand weapons. We have a unit of heavy infantry with spears, and heavy infantry with swords. So medium, light, heavy, heavy. And I really think that's all we need to say. I do have a couple of leaders here, though. I do have a leader for this heavy swordsman, and I have a leader for this heavy spears. The spears have a total of, looks like 14 guys. Whenever you see the banner carrier or the musician here, this guy, again, we're looking at splintered light figures. This guy here, he's a musician. He's tooting his little horn there. Beep, beep. Whatever the leadership are, wherever those like command stand guys are, they are armed identical to the rest of the figures on the table. So about half as many figures, but a lot stronger. Asymmetric battle could be interesting. I'm going to set up some terrain. I'll do deployment and check back in with you guys here in just a minute. After terrain, rolling for setup. All right, we got to talk about this terrain a little bit here because there's some funky stuff going on. You see these 4 rocks right here? That's rough ground. We're going to move that rock and these 2 trees out of the way as the elves come crashing through. The dunes are rough ground that block line of sight. You can't move through the oasis. This is very heavy brush. You cannot move through there at all. And then the road is not a road. That's actually a gully. It's set a head height below the level of the plains here. So you can shoot across it, but you can't shoot down into it. You can move along it without penalty, but you cannot enter it or exit it unless you are in open formation. This is dangerous ground. There are no rules for this in the game. We are going to invoke the additive rule of rules as written. Dangerous ground. Any turn, at the end of the turn that you have figures in this piece of terrain, we are going to roll a d6, and on, let's say, 4, 5, or 6, remove a figure. Easy peasy. It's also rough ground, so it slows you down. Can't move through in closed order because obviously this is quicksand. Which leaves our objectives. I put 3 objective markers in the center of the table. I rolled a d10 scatter die and moved them that many inches. You can see we had a little bit of a triangle. Then I rolled for deployment, and the elves have opted for the more open ground. They want to take these 2 and then just hold them for the rest of the game. Pretty easy stuff. I'm going to roll the red dice for the red mice, blue for the blue riders, and we start off with, we're going to call that a 6 rather than a tie, so the elves get to go first, or they can tell the mice to go first, but they're not going to do that. They're going to want to go. This first turn, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of action, so I'm just going to move everybody. We'll be right back. After 2 turns of movement, the table looks exactly like this. The cavalry have decided to deny that right flank. They're going to wait in reserve, providing a counterpunch, maybe pick off one of these objectives on one of the later turns. I got way more figures that can fight on this battlefield. If you think about it, Hellmarch is kind of a Napoleonic game. We got a lot of bodies, but we can't get enough of them to where we need them all at the same time. This unit of rat medium infantry climbed over this dune just to your left as you look at the screen in open order. It takes a half a turn. They don't have the movement to sacrifice. They've got to get over to this hill. And even if they did get back into close order, they're gonna have to enter into this dune because obviously the elves didn't have enough movement to make it over the crest of this. They're gonna have to move a half a move on this third turn to get up here. They are, of course, in open order, right? Because they're in rough going. They're going to stop there. That's going to limit the amount of shooting that they can do on turn number 3. The one thing we have to do for turn number 1, we're in dangerous terrain. There's a couple of ways to do this. 4, 5, or 6, you remove a figure. They got the bodies, man. These rats, they don't care if they lose 1 or 2. Kind of think maybe we should have done like a shooting attack now that I think about it. Maybe we roll for every figure in there. Maybe we roll, and to make it really swingy, you roll a d6, and on a 6, remove d6 figures. But I'll go with what I said at the beginning, and realizing now that aside from it being rough going, so these guys are in open order. That's going to be important. Open order. They lose a lot of their punch. They're at a disadvantage until they can tighten things back up. That means that, well, we'll roll first, and on a 2, they don't even lose any figures. So we can go back into the regular turn order. As we roll into turn number 2, I discover that Hellmarch is a lot like a Napoleonics game, particularly when you throw this many bodies on the table. I've got way more troops then I've got real estate, meaning I'm going to have to leave some people back in reserves. The Dark Elves are opting for their medium cavalry. They spent the first turn moving into rough going, said, you know what? I don't like being in open order all this time. I'm going to pull back over here. On turn number 3, we're just about to start turn number 3. I'll do that right now. We're going to form ranks. We're just going to tighten up and go 4 by 2. That should leave them wide enough that they can charge through here. They're going to try to pick up any of these contested objectives if they really need to. Maybe they can do a swing wide, take out some of these opponents over here. The other thing that Dark Elves are going to have to do is move their crossbow. Now, they're light infantry, but they are armed with crossbow. They didn't quite have enough movement to get over this dune. And, of course, they're in open order. Leading with the tree guy, bringing their leader over here. Maybe they give advantage to the shooters. Maybe they give it to the cavalry. Not sure. Remember, these are the only 2 units that have leaders for the Dark Elves. For the rats, this unit is in open order because they came over the crest of this hill. Their job is going to be to take out these shooters. No sense spending a half a turn getting back into close order. It might even be a full turn to get into close order. I can't remember. I'll look that up here in just a second. Might as well. We got the numbers advantage. Let's just get in there as fast as possible. This big unit hits the quicksand. And I realize now, man, like 4, 5, or 6, remove 1 figure. That's pretty terrible. I wish I could remember exactly what the 1-page rules. Let's do this instead to make it a little more swingy. Let's say on a 4, 5, or 6, we remove D3 figures. I think that'll make this a little more terrifying. And of course, I didn't do it. They look like they're still in closed order. They are in open order. We'll just have to remember that. 4, 5, or 6 means we lose D3. So 3 of these guys come right off. Now, we don't need to make a morale check for that. It's just 3 less boys that are going to get to join the ruckus. They're still bringing up, so they have 1 unit of light infantry ready to do the same. If they can be close, maybe they can grab one of these objective markers. The rats, of course, have seized this objective marker with their close order hand weapon guys, and they're bringing their rat ogre up as well. See those light infantry? We're going to swing them as wide as we can. They ignore the gully for movement purposes. If somebody gets bound up over here, it's really going to force the Dark Elves to consider that upper flank, their right flank, as we look at it. And that ends movement on turn 3. It looks like we're going to have the cleric drop some bless spells on that rat ogre so that he can fight a little better against the evil tree. Everybody moves. So elves move, mice move. Now it's time for shooting. The only shooting we have is these hand crossbows down here. I'm treating them just like regular crossbows. The figures themselves have hand crossbows. In some games, you can shorten their range by half or give them a volley as they charge into combat. I'm just going to treat them as regular crossbows. 9-inch range when you're playing at half scale. And because they are in open order, they can fire an indirect volley at these medium foot. Now, the medium foot are also in open order, which means they only take half hits. The indirect fire also reduces their range by 1/3, meaning they can only fire 6 inches, which, there you go, there's 6 inches right there. We can hit the front ranks. We're not going to do all that much damage, so we'll allow them to shoot. They are firing at medium troops. Divide the number of shooters by 3. That gives us a result of 4. The 4, now normally they can fire twice a turn, once at the midpoint of the opponent's turn. Because they had to come up over the crest of this hill, that counts as movement. They're only going to get to fire during the missile phase. So just the 1 shot this time around, but that's okay. They're going to do 4 hits, and then we also, and I forgot this last time, you roll 4 dice, which hits on 6s. So let's roll that. So we got 4 hits already, and then we get no 6s, so 4 hits, and with we're just going to pull them off the back rank to keep it simple. Wait a minute, did I just pull off I don't want to pull off the bannerman, though. Let's leave that heroic fella right there in the upper right. So open order means they only take 2 casualties. They're going to be fighting on light troops. This might not go well for the elves over on this side of the table. At this stage of the game, the elves have completed their movement. Looks like they're going to have to take the charge. The rat creatures may decide to just wait 1 turn. They're sitting on 2 victory points. We'll see about that. That's probably not the case. The one thing that we know for sure is that this unit here of rat creatures is going to get shot to ribbons if they stand there. Every turn, they're going to lose a minimum of 2 figures, so they have to charge the elves over here. The elves have not moved, so their first volley is going to take off 2 figures. Then they get to roll those same 4 dice, and any 6s remove an additional figure. So 3 more figures removed from this unit. Now this unit down here started off with, that's 5, and then here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have not lost a third of their figures. They don't need to make a morale check yet. That volley hits during the halfway point of their movement, but as you can see, they are within 4.5, so they are going to make contact. One move that the Dark Elves did, they brought their leader over to bolster this open order. So we have a medium infantry versus a light infantry. And normally, the rats would get a bonus for charging, but because the archers are on a hill, you don't get the charge bonus. But we're not going to do this melee yet. I pulled out 5 dice and 5 dice because we've got 2 front ranks of 5 figures. Nobody has spears. We should probably finish our movement phase first. Then we'll get to melee. The big massive spear rats are going to charge spear on spear. A little bit of a lead over into this unit of heavy infantry, which may be a problem. The heavy infantry on the next turn may be able to swing in and hit the flank, but they have some light troops over here ready to hit them in the flank. So the elves doing a pretty good job protecting their flank for the most part. Going to be a little bit confusing, this battle. We'll take our time. We'll figure it out. The big boys have opted for one more turn. This is the turn on which our spellcaster says, yeah, we'll cast Bless on our boy, giving him advantage on a fight against their big boy. I've left these guys down here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them just yet. Bear in mind, if you are trying to get out of the gully in the face of opposition, you are going to be at a disadvantage. So both of these units just eyeing each other for right now. They're content to let this side of the battle work its way out, except there is one little problem, and that's this unit of light infantry can get across the valley, take a turn, get into position. Maybe they can hit these guys in the flank, which will open up an opportunity for the large unit of flail swingers to jump across and hit those guys in the flank, which would negate the penalty for attacking uphill. It's doubly bad. I didn't realize when I set this terrain up how rough this valley was going to be. It's not just rough ground. You have to be in open order, which puts you at a disadvantage in combat, and you're attacking uphill. That's 2 disadvantages. Your opponents are going to be hitting on 4s, not on 6s. Now, they are both medium infantry, so no advantages there. But I think these guys, do they both have leaders? I think these guys don't have a leader, so the rats will still be at a slight advantage. Also, a little broader front, so the numbers may tell over there on turn number 4. On turn number 3, we still have to figure out this melee. Medium troops versus light troops will be hitting on 5s. The rats hit on 5s. The light troops, because they're at a disadvantage, will be rolling half as many dice. They have a leader that negates that. So they'll still roll 5 dice, hitting on 6s. The Skaven also have a leader, which means they're actually at a slight advantage. They're going to be hitting on 5s. So we'll roll, and again, the red dice are going to be the Skaven. The blue dice are these guys. And we probably should have put that leader in front. No, because he's doing mass combat. It is what it is. Did I roll 5 dice for both? Yes. So the mice are going to be hitting and doing 2 damage. The elves are going to do 1. So there's 1 casualty and 1 casualty. There's a leader in here somewhere. I think I might have already pulled him off. And, actually, now that I look at it, this is a flail guy. He should be over here with the flail unit. He's not a hand weapon guy. Maybe I should. So that's number 6. The ratlings are going to have to make a morale check because they lost 33% of their troops. The dark elves are going to have to make a morale check because they lost that combat by 1. Yeah, 2 of these guys come off. Both sides of this fight have to make a morale check. The light troops have to roll. It says here, quality is roll 2d6, roll above is a failure. So we have to roll 2d6. We have to roll 8 or less to succeed for the light troops, 9 or less for the medium. However, because the rats did 1 extra casualty, that pushes this number down to a 7. Let's roll for the Dark Elves first. They get I guess we better re-roll that, huh? They get a 7. You have to roll above it or you fail. Immediately suffer the results of that. That's the higher die. They are scattered and they have to rally. They retreat and can't do anything except spend the whole next turn rallying, and they're going to take the leader with them. They move a whole move back. That's 4.5 inches off the hill. And not only that, but because these guys had a little bit of movement left, well, they were right at about 4.5 inches. They are going to be able to kind of come up the hill just a little bit. We'll put them right there. And that's good. Oh, they also, well, maybe not, because they have to pass a morale check too. We roll in on a 3. They are going to be fine. They continue their charge slightly up the hill. They are in open order, so they may be able to come crashing down into these sword guys right here. But let's figure out what happens with this larger combat first. We drop the yellow gem of shame down on this scattered unit. Next turn, you know what they have to do, and it's not going to be good for them. All right, looking in here, we're going to roll. This is a little complicated because we have some bleed over. We have 2 units fighting 1 unit. Not quite sure what to do. Mostly going to ignore it, at least for the attack. I'm going to have 14. Remember that these spears can attack 2 ranks deep. I've got 7 across the front. That means we're going to roll 14 dice. I'm going to have to add these in, but let's see what all of our advantages are. The chargers, meaning the rats, get the advantage. But the rats are medium infantry compared to the heavy infantry here, so that kind of negates that. It's basically everything's going to negate on their side. Yeah, they charged. Yeah, they get 2 attacks. But because this side is heavy and has a leader, they both have leaders, those negate. It's just going to be 14 dice hitting on 6s. It's just that simple. We get a total of 1, 2, about what you'd expect. We'll pull those off the back. We lay them down just to remind us what the casualty count was, because these guys with the spears are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the front. They're only going to get to roll 10 dice, except we've got this sword guy over here who is also going to join in the fun. So that is going to be 11 dice total for, I'm just going to roll the same red dice. And in this case, it's also going to be hitting on 6s. Without a single casualty, that means that do we need to make a morale check? I don't think we do. And that's why I check the rule book. After combat, the side with the most casualties has to check their morale. Remember that little chart we saw? The guys making their morale check are heavy units, heavy boys. They're at -2. Are they outnumbered 2 to 1? They might be. They might be at a -3 on this roll, meaning they're only going to succeed on, well, right now they have to roll less than a 10. There are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And do we have 24 remaining over here? Well, it's 7, 14, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So they are outnumbered 2 to 1. Do we give them the benefit of having these guys right next door? Do we count this extra guy? If we do, the secure flanks, I kind of think we go ahead and we're not going to give them the -1 for that. It may not make a difference, but that, sometimes that extra -1 can make all the difference in the world. We need to roll 7 or less, or these guys are going to fall back. 6 means we're okay, and we will continue the combat on the next turn. On turn number 4, Elf Cavalry, still waiting. Got to see what happens. They've pulled this unit of swordsmen back to protect the flank. They're worried about getting charged by these ratlings. This being the case, the ratlings will charge this unit down here. We'll come back to that in just a second. Light infantry have moved up. That's also part of the reason why the swordsmen had to refuse that flank. The big boys have now locked in combat. Old Sandy Treebeard has jumped off the hill, but that exposed him to getting hit in the flank by these light troops. Now, there's only 3 of those guys attacking him, but they did charge. That's going to be a thing. Remember that the Rat Ogre has a bless spell on him. He's going to get some advantages from that. And way off in the distance, you can see those light rats have almost entirely gotten out of the gully. Next turn, they're going to be able to finish moving out, close ranks, and then they're really going to be a dangerous force. They're really going to be changing the face of this battle. Slow developing flank move, but interesting that it can still work in a game even like this. Bear in mind, this is a problem for the Dark Elves. The hand fighters are going to charge 4.5 inches. These Dark Elves have to roll a d6. On a 6, they rally and they can fight. If they don't get the 6, which they don't, they retreat a second time and they're going to bring their leader with him. That's going to take them, the back rank is going to end up just on the table. One more turn of that and they're going to be driven from the board. And then these hand weapon rats, are going to be able to come back and start causing some real problems. They moved, although before that happens, I think we can count on the cleanup crew to come in and kind of sweep out the rubbish here in the backfield. Now we can do the scrum in the middle, where it's a medium ratling versus a heavy elf combat. The rats are going to roll half as many dice. The leaders negate, but without the charge bonus, it's going to get a little harder for these little guys. They do have one trick up their sleeve. They can bring units from the back rank around, and I think we're just going to bring one from either side. It's not really clear on the rules on that. You could probably bring maybe 2 around. Maybe we do this, and you give them, because remember they're spear guys, so they can attack 2 ranks deep, which means they've got 18 attacks, except, because they don't have that charge bonus, we're only rolling 9 dice, hitting on 6s. And hey, we'll take it. 1, 2, 3 6s. Nothing to sneeze at. But the elves now get to counterattack. And they were 5 across the front. They're going to get to roll 10 dice. And they're going to be hitting on 5s. So we roll. And they're going to get 1, 2, 3 hits themselves. And because we're tied, I think that means nobody needs to make a morale check. Except the guys here in the elvish clothes, the guys in the golden armor, they've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys left. They have lost 5. They're at 33%. They have to make a morale check. Now, they do need a 10. There's no problems with that. So they roll an 8. They're going to be fine. This combat is going to continue. Now we get to do the big boys. The big tree has 8 hit dice. Is that what we said? Yeah, wow, he's terrifying. He charged into combat, giving him, is that an advantage or an extra attack? Sometimes I forget. Normal is difference in quality. Flanking, leader nearby. Yeah, none of that applies. Cavalry versus footmen. Oh, yeah, charging. You get an extra roll. He's rolling 16 dice because he charged. But he's at a disadvantage because the rat is now fighting as heavy. Remember, he was blessed by his little rat priest there, which means he's still going to be back down to fighting with just 6. Well, wait a second. Let's think about this. Heavy versus medium means the tree is going to be rolling 8 dice on the attack, and he is going to be hitting on 6s. All right, let's walk through this one more time just to make sure we get it right. If you charge into combat, it's a medium versus a heavy, so you cut your number of dice in half. Yeah, and the Mr. Tree Man is going to get no hits. Now the Rat Ogre gets to counterattack. He does not have a leader nearby, but he does have that bless spell. He counts as heavy, meaning he's rolling 6 dice, and he is hitting on 5s. He's going to do a total of 1 hit, but he has 3 little friends that are going to get 1 attack. Because they're light versus medium, you cut it in half. Actually, give them 2 rolls there. So 1 attack. So only 1 damage. I'm going to put a little damage die down. We'll use a yellow damage die. So this big hit die creature only took 1 hit. He does need to make a morale check, though. So we'll grab our morale dice, we'll roll, and with a result of a 4, he's going to be fine. That combat will continue, but we'll probably let some more of those little light troops move into a flanking position. That will end turn number 4, and now I see where 1, 2 moves to get to the center. We probably should have chopped this off at turn 6. Maybe on turn 7 we'll start to roll to see if this game ends a little quicker. It is only turn 5. So this game could go on for a while because we have so many figures on the board. Are we learning? I think we're learning. movement is going to happen first, and the first thing that has to happen is these cavalry really need to clear out this unit. If this unit makes impact the open order rat creatures, if they charge into this unit of shooters, those crossbow boys, and drive them off the field, the leader goes, and all of the dark elves have to take a morale check. The elves do not want that. The problem that they have, they can't prevent it this turn, but in order to secure that flank, they're going to have to turn 45 degrees. So we'll move. This is the thing. In order to charge, you can only turn 45 degrees, which means we'll swing them around like this, and that's really the only thing they're going to be able to do on this turn. At the conclusion of movement, almost the conclusion, cavalry have moved, they've repivoted, they're ready to sweep these guys from the field. Day late, dollar short. Takes a full turn, it turns out, to assume close order. That must have been what they were doing last turn. I think I moved them a little bit and put them in close order. So that's the other reason why they couldn't pivot. Or, I don't know, maybe when you assume close order, you can face any direction you want. I would probably do that. Remember, when you're in open order, you're just kind of a loose mob. Your officers get you, gathered up and pointed in the right direction. They can pick any direction. So we'll say that's what happened here. Form close order. These guys making that big long sweep attack after the elves are now facing the wrong way, they can get up into the backfield. I've moved them 4.5 inches. Takes a full turn. Next turn, they'll get into formation, and then on the following turn, they can charge these guys in the back. And if these guys turn, they may need to deny that flank. But they can't afford to, because they'll lose their objective marker. There's a whole lot of if-thens that don't go the way of the elves here. It's really looking good for the rats, who have also moved this light unit up onto the hill. That way, if they get charged by this unit of heavy sword elves, they're going to lose a lot of their advantages. The last thing we do is charge the 4.5 inches to here. And now, if the Dark Elf leader doesn't roll a 6, he rolls a 4. This whole unit runs off the table, and that unit includes the leader, who's shouting at his guys who said, no, this battle is over. They must have dragged him off the field. And that means the elves have to make a morale check for every unit still on the table. The medium cavalry are going to roll a 9. They have failed. The heavy boys need to roll less than a 10, succeed. These guys in combat are also going to succeed. And then these medium foot over here are going to roll a 7. They will succeed as well. What about the big guy? He is a medium troop. He's going to be just fine. Things just could not be going worse for the cavalry. They have failed the morale check. Their top die was a 6, which means they're going to retreat, which is a full move. And as I read this, they're going to make a full move towards their table edge. A little bit of a judgment call. One full move back, that's 9 inches. If I was a player, I might argue, well, hey, can I just move back to here? And that is a retreat, which takes them out of the fight for at least a couple of more turns. I think maybe that keeping them on the table is probably a fair way to adjudicate this. I want to be fair and reasonable to both sides, and I want to give these elves a chance to redeem themselves a little bit. It also does, if nothing else, it means these guys have a chance to do something interesting as well. They're safe, not just for this turn, but for the next turn. So, right, by the time those cavalry move back up into this area, these guys can get to safety or turn a flank or do something. Back to the scrum, we're rolling 9 dice, only hitting on 6s. We get a single kill on this unit right here. And then we only have 2, 4, 6, 8 dice left. The heavy guys are losing this battle of attrition. At least they hit on 5s. Let's jostle those a little bit. They're going to do 3 damage, and this time the rats have to make that morale check. At a -3, medium guys have an 8. -3, a 10 is not great. They're going to retreat in good order with that result of a 5. Which leaves the big guys duking it out. This time, our cleric is going to curse the tree man. making him fight as light infantry. He still fights with all 8 of his hit dice. Since he was the aggressor, we'll roll for him first. But, because he's fighting as light infantry, he's only going to roll 4. And he's only hitting on 6s. Nothing doing. The ogre now is going to roll 4, fighting as a medium against a light. That means he's hitting on 5s. The rat does 3 wounds, taking the tree to 4. And then remember, we have, he's fighting as light. That means we have light versus light. And that's why we cast Curse. Because now our tree guy is fighting with 3. And we could probably bring, like I said, it's another turn. So we bring a 4th guy in. We've got 4 light infantry hitting on 6s. That's going to take him up to 5 damage. He's going to have to make, and because he didn't do any wounds in return, he is at -4. And with a 6, he is going to be forced to retreat 4.5 inches to here. The 6 result means it's a simple retreat. He just runs back over the hill, and he's had just about enough of that. On this turn, that's the end of turn 5. Then we go to turn 6. The elves move first, and we'll put him up here. He's still trying to contest. Boy, what do we do? This is going to be interesting. The first thing we are going to want to do if we're the elves is bring this cavalry back into position. Let's bring them 9 inches up to here so that they're ready to charge. If we only move 4.5 inches, we could change our formation, but we had to go to 3 and 3 in order to stay on the table. You know what? They were at 4 the whole time, so we'll kind of bring them back a little bit like that. And I think this is where, if we talk this out, we might just have to give the battle to the rat creatures. Because if these guys pivot, that's a half a move, they can't charge. Just looking at things from the elf. The elves are going to dictate what happens here, right? We need to contest for this gem right here. But we can only charge 3 inches. These guys are out of position. Like, everybody's out of position. I just don't like anything that's about to happen here. We don't have the movement to charge our best asset. We would have to fight a 15 versus 12 in open order, v open order, if we wanted to charge these rats up on the dunes. And you know what the rats are going to do? They're going to bring this unit into position. How far away are they? They're a little too far to charge this turn. So they're likely going to move up to here and brace for impact against these cavalry guys. And this is why we really need to play it out. As much as I think there's a lot of really bad choices for the Dark Elves, it's not like the rats have a whole lot of good options either. These guys are way out of position. They may not last long. And if they get driven from the field, because the elves, how far are they? If they stop right there, even if they succeed in their charge, they're going to stay on the table. So one of the tactics you can do is bring these guys over here. Now, we can't do that, right? We just change formation. But if you get them close enough to the edge of the table, you can lure the cavalry to charge you. And even if your unit is lost, so is that powerful cavalry unit. You might want to trade a light infantry for a cavalry unit. That's not a bad trade. These guys also, of course, are going to change formation. And we'll give them as broad a front as we can. We're going to want those 6 attacks. So we'll go 6 across the front. And you know that's going to happen. So I'm just kind of putting things where it makes sense for my brain. We're going to bring these guys into formation as well. There's only 9 of them, so we'll go 5 in the front, 4 in the back. And then the question is, do we want to swarm after this guy one more time? Our cleric, not a high enough level. I'm just going to move him, get a little more separation. He's out of spells. So that could be a problem as well. I think we have to. I think we charge this old boy up the hill. We're going to be at some serious disadvantages. But if we bring these open order guys in and drive him off, that would be something. I think we'll call it 4 light infantry, so we get 2 attacks against him there. Plus our unhurt guy. If we could just do 3 more attacks and kill this tree guy, then it does open up the ability to start rolling up this flank over here. I really think that's how we got to do this. These guys went back 4 inches. I think we have to charge. I don't see that we have any option here. Oh, we're too far away. We're too far away. I think we just got to move like this to kind of secure our flank a little bit better. Move up to charge range and then just eat the charge. These guys retreated, but that means they can get right back stuck in. The good news is, unfortunately, it's just not great. There's no good options here because the only real fight we have at this point is, well, we have 2 fights here and here. On this fight, we have 7 across the front, but they have charged. So that means it's going to be heavy v heavy because we have the advantage. So they're going to get to roll all of their dice. And let's just call it 10 plus the 2 guys on the side. Let's call it 12 for the rats. 12 hitting on 6s. We're going to get 2 more casualties on the Dark Elf Spear. And then the Dark Elves will get to counterattack with all 7 of their guys. And heavy on heavy means they are, at least for this first turn, they're going to be hitting on 6s. So they get a single hit on the rats, and that forces a morale check at -1, and they pass it this time at least. So thank goodness for small favors. The Rat Ogre, unharmed, has charged the tree guy. He gets 4 attacks. Oh, except he charged. He gets 8 attacks. Medium v medium. Oh, except he's charging a guy on a hill, which negates that. So he's going to roll 4 dice, hitting on 6s. We get a single hit, taking this guy to 6. I should probably put some casualty markers down. I'm going to have a hard time remembering all these. So that's 1 on this turn. Then these 4 light troops charge into combat. All the same things. They only get to roll half as many dice. And they're going to do 1 more hit. Meaning we did 2 hits this turn. So 5 plus 2. 2 hits on the big guy. And the big guy has not been having a whole lot of luck. He is going to fight the Rat Ogre, who is the first into combat. He's going to roll 8 dice. And he's medium v medium. He got charged, so he's only going to be hitting on 6s. And he gets no hits. Boy, that tree guy is just man, he's striking out, man. Just whiffing on everything. He's only got 1 wound left. So we'll call that 6 plus, we'll put a little red one under him. And he lost that fight, which means he needs to make a morale check. And with an 11, he rolled a 6. So he's going to retreat again. He'll retreat off the hill 3. Well, he's going to retreat 4.5 inches, which brings him back to here. And on the next round, he's going to get charged again. We'll put Mr. Rat Ogre up. Everybody's kind of off the hill because this thing, they slide around a little bit and they fall. You're not going to believe what this terrain piece is. It's a little bonkers. When you're driving down a highway and the highway runs out and they put little divots, little white bumps in the road so that your car goes brrr. Yeah, that's what this is. I just coated it in sand. Is that it for the turn? Man, that is it for the turn. Oh, this is getting really interesting now. All right, there's our 6 hit points for you, buddy. The elves have to go first. And boy, they just don't have any decent options here, do they? They've only got 1. They have to take both of these. They really have to go on the attack in a major way. Mr. Treebeard is going to have to charge into combat just to keep it even. He's got to hold them off long enough. Hopefully this big scrum down here can do some good. The light troops are still hanging out here. They're pinning this unit of sword guys in place. Even though they're not attacking, this unit is playing a pivotal role. Their pivotal role is preventing this unit of elvish swordsmen from pivoting themselves. We have a charge attack here. Kabow. and it's going to be medium v medium, but it is cavalry versus foot. We have a charge here. So here's the question. What do we do? I think we have to bring these guys, we have to rotate them. Boy, who do you want to get charged in the flank by? The problem is they would have had to spend a turn reversing and then a turn moving and then a turn reversing. They really got stuck out on a limb there. They really just got hung out to dry. There's nowhere they can go. The only real option they have at this point, let's charge. They're in open order, charging uphill against a closed order unit, but that's really all they've got. If they can win this fight, maybe, boy, they probably should have waited. They probably shouldn't have waited until this turn, but they had no idea this fight was going to go so poorly. If the Elves can win this fight, they may be able to snatch this objective marker from the Rats. That's really the only hope they've got. The cavalry, I forgot they have lances. They get to attack in 2 ranks. It's going to be double attacks because they're charging, double attacks because they're cavalry. That means 18 dice, medium v medium, hitting on 6s. Roll all 18 of them, and the Elves just cannot catch a break. Yeah, that's the cock crows 3 times as the forces of evil do 0 hits. They should have done a minimum of 3. It's just not going well for them. The boys on foot are going to roll 5 dice, except, they're at a disadvantage. I think that means they only roll like 2 or 3. We'll roll 3 dice, so no hits there. And that means on the next turn, we can expand our footprint like so. For the big fight in the middle, we're back to 14 across the front. With the charge, means heavy on heavy, hitting on 6s. We do 2 more damage. 1, 2. And, by my reckoning, when you hit 33% casualties, the unit is gone. But let's just see what happens. We got 6 counterattacks for the Dark Elves. They are heavy versus medium. They'll be hitting on 5s at least. And this time they score 2. So we'll just peel these 2 off the side. And that will at least cut down on the number of attacks. Next turn, 2v2, nobody has to make a morale check. And for the big guys, the rat charged, he's going to do the 1 point, and that's going to ruin the tree man's day. The tree man does, however, have 8 attacks. He will get to attack back, hitting on 6s. There we go. 1 hit as he goes down. Mr. Rat Ogre now has 1 blamage, and I really think that's going to end the battle for us. Let's go ahead and see what happens here. Just for giggles, we do have a unit of medium troops fighting medium troops, open order versus closed order, fighting uphill versus defending. It's going to be 5 versus 6 dice. So I'm going to dump those in, but because they're uphill, the rats are going to get to roll 12 dice. And you gotta roll though, right? The 5 dice for everybody is going to be hitting on, so it's 5 dice for the elves, that's the blue dice. Medium v medium, I think it's actually, I might be doing this wrong. It might actually be 2, 4, 6. It might be 6 hitting on, let me think about this. Open order means half the dice. But they charge, so it's back to the normal, hitting on 6s. I think it's going to be 6 hitting on 6s, but because they're defending, they're going to be hitting on 5s. So it's 5 hitting on 6s, 6 hitting on 5s. I think I got all that right. And that's going to be 2 hits versus 1 hit. The elves have lost that combat, and they're going to have to make a morale check at -1. And they roll an 8, which is a failure because they needed to roll less than a 7. And with the 5, they're going to retreat in open order, 1 full move like so. And we're going to call it right there because the loss of the center here is a real problem. If we take a look at what the movement means over here, nothing changes here. These guys are hanging by a thread. This unit is about to get swarmed. They'll get charged in the front. We're just going to drive them back, man. This isn't even theirs anymore. It's being contested. They're going to get flanked like so. So this unit is effectively gone. This unit is effectively gone. There's just some fighting in the backfield. There are so many light troops that are going to be able to just run interference until the end of the game. We are going to just talk it out. We're on turn number 6 here, I want to say, turn 7. It's going to go the way of the rat creatures. Numbers have overcome quality, although I don't know how quality you can call it when you're rolling as terrible as these Dark Elf Riders did. And this guy here, just kind of an embarrassment. There may be something wrong with these dice, or maybe the universe is trying to tell us something. It's trying to tell us this is an interesting game. We had a lot of back and forth, a lot of really difficult decisions on both sides of the ball here. I'm really glad. I just hope both teams had fun. I'm really glad we did a really big battle with this and saw how all the various mechanics like interrelate, whether it's champions fighting over here and dominating the game and really focusing your attention here, but not being the only thing that matters. This is not just a 1v1 with a lot of stuff going on the fringes. There's a lot of activity over here. What could the Elves have done different? I don't know. Brought a few more guys, rolled better. That's always the best strategy. Roll better dice. Hey, I'm here to help. I've got great advice. Roll good. If you roll gooder than your opponent, actually, here's a little bit of advice for you. If you're rolling dice, you're pushing things. If you're the active roller, you're the one that's driving the action. Try to roll more than your opponent. Try to roll more dice than your opponent. I know that sounds really chintzy, but that is kind of how these games work. If you're letting the other guy roll, you're letting him dictate the terms. Every time you roll, it's more likely good things happen for you. So that may be the real reason that the Rats won in this case, because they were just rolling a whole lot more dice. Even with the bad rolling, I think that was the difference. I don't know, you tell me. There's a whole comment section down there. Or not, just enjoy. That's what we're here for. Till next time, I'm praying for you.